So in today's video, we're actually going to spec up a PC for a specific customer's needs. Now we're going to be using our in-house PC builder application, which helps us not only spec up the PC for our customer, but it also allows us to get that balance right based on budget. Now we will be able to go and choose things like the CPU, the RAM, case, basically every component of that PC. So let's jump on the computer and get started. So before we get started, let's put this into context. We've been approached by a customer who wants us to build a home gaming PC for their child. Now the child is around 8 and 16 years old, we're not too sure, but we do know that they've come in with some specific requests. So to get started, let's load up our in-house custom builder. So with this application, we can custom build any home or business machine for our customer. So in this scenario, let's start off with the motherboard. Now we know that the customer is a gamer and we're going to recommend the AMD processor. So it's an AM4 motherboard we're looking for. And in our case, we're going to be looking for a Gigabyte A520M, which we think will do the job perfectly fine with some expandability for the future. So we'll go ahead and we'll select that one. If we take a quick look at the specs of the motherboard, you can see that it supports AMD Ryzen 5000 series. And if we just take a little scroll down a little bit, you can get a flavor of what it can actually do. So it's got a Gigabyte LAN on board as an example. If we come down a little bit further, we can see that what it can take in terms of connectivity. So again, it takes the AMD socket and AM4, which is perfect. We've got 4 DDR slots in there, which is great. It can go up to 128 gigabyte of RAM, so that's also good. Now the integrated graphics, albeit we won't be using the integrated graphics, you can see that it's got 1 display port on board and 1 HDMI. Again, because we're going to be using an external graphics card, we won't be using the onboard graphics. Obviously we've got our Realtek audio, gigabit LAN as it says. In terms of storage, we've got an M.2 connector, so it can be upgraded to an M.2. However, in our scenario, we're going to be just using a good old SATA SSD. If we come down further, it's got 4 USB 3.2 ports, 2 USB 3.2 Gen ports, and 4 USB 2.0 1.1 ports. So it's got plenty of USB expandability on there. Now, we go down further in here, you can see that we've got more I/O information, which we won't go through all of that, but it has the connectivity needed for their needs, more than enough. So that's brilliant. Next, we look at the CPU. Now the CPU, we already know, is an AM4. The one we're going to recommend is an AMD Ryzen 5500 3.6 GHz with 6 cores. So let's go ahead and find that and include that in our quote. So next, we take a look at the graphics card. The customer's indicated with the kind of games that their child wants to play, so we've come up with the best mix for the job, and we recommend a Gigabyte NVIDIA GeForce RTX 350. So let's go ahead and select that one. If we take a look a bit more information onto that, you can see if we scroll down, what we're looking for is the compatibility in terms of what it can do. And yep, this will pretty much do what they're looking to do today with a little bit of overlap for the future. But coming down, what's important is the kind of connectivity they've got on it. So it's got 2 display ports and 2 HDMI ports. So that will work perfectly fine for what their needs are. It's DirectX 12 Ultimate compatible and OpenGL 4.6. So again, not a bad graphics card for the price, do them really well. Next, let's take a look at the RAM. Now, again, they're on a tight budget, so we're going to recommend only 8 gig RAM. Now, for the games that they want to play and the programs they want to play, this will do fine. It is a bare minimum, but we're going to put it in anyway. We're going to be using DDR4, so we've got DDR4, and what we're going to use is this NTEC 8 GB with no heatsink. Next, let's take a look at the hard drive, and we want to use an SSD. Again, this is to match their budgeting requirements. Now, we recommend at least a 512 megabyte SSD, pretty good for the job, and it's not price heavy. So we'll put in a 512 NTEC SA500 SSD as a primary drive. So next, we're going to take a look at what kind of case they want to use. And again, we're going to take some future expandability into consideration. So we're going to recommend something like the Deep Cool Matrix 43FS. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put that in to our basket. Next, we're going to take a look at the power supply. So in terms of the power supply, we think a 600 watt power supply should do the trick really well. So again, we're going to use Deep Cool for this, and it's an PF600. Go ahead and put that in our basket. So one of the other things that we need to consider with this customer is where the computer is going to be. Now they want to keep this in their bedroom, which is too far away from their router. So they're going to need a wireless controller. So we can go and click on controllers, and we can put in one of these wireless controllers. And finally, we're going to take a look at the operating system. Now for this scenario, we'd always use Windows Home. So we'll go ahead and put Windows 11 Home into the basket. So there you go, there's their PC for £599.78, all on the budget. But there's one thing that we want to try and do for this customer. We want to try and get them to 16 gigs of RAM. So one of the things that we do talk about a lot with our customers is to get as much RAM as you possibly can go. So that's why we recommend always putting a little bit extra into your budget. So what I'm going to suggest is that we actually increase the RAM from just 8 gig to 16 gigs. So I'm going to put 2 sticks in and see what it takes the budget. So as you can see, that takes the budget over by about £14. Now I think that's a fair thing to do. I think that's okay. I think that's manageable. If they were strict with the budget, then fair enough, you stick with the 8 gigs. But if you could just find the extra £14, that would get you 16 gigs of RAM. So we've come on the budget, but what our recommendations would be is, could you go over by £15 and get 16 gigs? So there you go. We have spec'd up and customized a home PC for a specific client use. So what do you think? Would you do something differently? Would you come up with a different specification for that budget? Let us know in the comments below. So my name's Rob from RLS Computer Services. I hope you liked this video. If so, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.